Hi, my name is Jun Kim. Today I'm going to talk about the regain trust in cyberspace for successful digital transformation. Let me introduce myself. I'm a founder and the CEO of a security company named Naru. I'm also working in the private and public sector. I'm mainly working in the field, solving the cybersecurity problems for incident response and security architecture, setting up security architectures. And this slide, I'm going to talk about the lessons we learned from K-COVID responses. As you all may know, Korea is one of the most successful cases in dealing with COVID-19 cases. And the main reason that the Korea's success lies in we don't make the problem as a science case. We make as a COVID response for the economic resilience. We set up the transparent metrics for performance awareness, like setting up the screening center in everywhere. Anyone who wants to get tested, they can always go, and then there is no manipulation of numbers or whatsoever. Those transparency encourages the voluntary public participation, and there's a trust for the government in dealing with this problem. And we also split the detection and then response process. Usually they were in one single domain, and those separation eases the conflict of interest, and it helped us to regain the control against the COVID-19. And as the situation changes, we flexibly change our response level upon those pandemic status. That also helped us to regain the control. The COVID-19 versus cyber threat. People may think there's a little similarity between those two, but if you look at closely, there's more similarity than differences, those two. The COVID-19 case and the cyber threats, both are the first case we have encountered. We have never experienced such a cyber threat and such a pandemic case so far. It's not possible to detect every single infection person. And there's a wide variety of symptoms among the infected. Some has a high temperature and fevers, but some is asymptomatic cases. There are many asymptomatic cases, but still they spread. It won't destroy the host. It's unlike the COVID-19, the cases like more severe disease like Ebola, they destroy the host, and it actually prevent those disease from being spread. But in this case, they learn somehow co-live with the host, and they also has fast mutations. It helped them to spread widespread to the public, and there's no way to go back to the past. People say the future will be way different than we have experienced so far. And we need to cope with this new normal. In this case, it is not only for COVID-19. The cyber threat case is also like this, because we have lived with those diseases for more than 1,000 years, but those cyber, it's been only less than 100 years we have experienced this cyber changes. And it started actually in 1960s when internet was created by United States. There are changes in cyberspace since the beginning. And the rise of the state-sponsored adversaries, you have experienced a lot of cases that have, many countries has their own cyber armies, and even some countries promote cyber espionage and criminal activities. In this case, we may think this is only the case for some of those rogue countries, but if you see this, when you see these pictures, you probably think differently. This is the well-known picture you can search from the internet. This is one of the systems that run by United States government. They actually monitor the whole internet through their internet backbone of the connectivity of their interested country. The internet is made by United States Department of Defense as a military project from the beginning, the late 60s. And United States China, Russia, North Korea, South Korea, India, Syria, and many other countries has a cyber armies. And cyber war is an asymmetric warfare. It's much more like state espionage than the conventional warfare. If you see, when you see this picture, there's a small picture inside there. Inside it, it actually shows the incident that the United States government actually implement the sniffing capability of to the Cisco routers exported to their friendly countries. As you see over here, it's those espionage activity is not very special. It's widespread activity all over the world. Let me talk about the Korea. There are many changes in the cyber attack surface, especially in Korea. I've been working as a security specialist for 20 years in Korea. And I've experienced a lot of cases. As you've seen in this picture, everything started in 2009 707 denial of service attack. At the time, the North Korea made use of probably the first case in history of cyber war, and they employed a software-based supply chain attack and to distribute the malwares to the public, and then uses the public computer to attack the targets like government and commercial and financial areas. And since the 2009, then we have seen so many different cases. And up until now, we have, so far, there's a attack against the bankers and attack against the financial institute and defense industry. And there's a supply chain attacks and ATM hackings. There are a lot of cases ongoing in Korea. For those continuous operation, adversaries separate the operation from their infrastructures. At the very beginning, they used to set up their own computer and proxies to operate their own, but today they change their tactics. They usually use the CAAS, the Crimea as a Service, or MAAS, malware as a service, for their operations. Is separate to make it very hard to attribute who's behind the scene of the crime, because many different actors uses the same infrastructures to launch the attack for their own targets. And they have a clear goal with the varying tactics. They have a very clear goals along with varying tactics to complete missions. What it meant is, if there is a problem while they are attacking some target, and they try to circumvent or they try to evade to find the solution. And this continuous activity usually results in the successful exploitation of a high-value target. And there's a dynamic tactical movement for circumventing static defense devices. What I meant by static defense devices is the defender side, usually they operate the firewall, IDS, IPS, and there are less changes in their shapes or their policies. And once they learn how those devices working in their target organization, they try to find a way to go over those defense systems. For example, in recent case in Korean Financial Institute, they made use of the security device as a mean of spreading the malwares. They found the zero-day vulnerability in security device, and they explored it, and they make use of those functions to spread malwares to the financial institute. And now you see, it was once for us to secure our organization, but it's now being used for the means for the attackings. And as you see in this picture, at the very beginning, they used to launch one-time high impact attack like denial of service attack or system destructions. But now they more focus on the very highly advanced attack. They stay within the target and then try to steal the information anytime they want to. They usually set up the station inside the target organization and stay there more than a month or a year. And whenever they need, they access to their target and they steal or have stolen a lot of data from their target organization. And current defense system usually focus on strong and intense attack, but they usually lost their eyes in the low late attack. And not only in Korea, but it's a global situation. The changes in the cyber attack surface. In this picture, it shows the BGP hijacking of the Russian criminals to the Amazon AWS. As you all know, DNS is the main function of the internet, but it's not directly connected to the system. We rely on DNS to resolve the IP address of some domain names that we want to connect. And attackers try to exploit those vulnerability, those connection between IP address and domain, and they successfully have stolen user information from the digital currency site. The site name was myethereum.net, and then they set up the log phishing site, and then they try to lure the people not to the original site but to the phishing site by manipulating the BGP path from the users to the target location. In April 2008, Russian cyber criminals BGP hijacked the Amazon AWS DNS farms. But not just hijacking BGP doesn't help them. It doesn't make all the traffic to go to their phishing site. So they hacked eNet before they actually launched this attack and use this as an intermediary deception point for BGP hijacking operation. They set up the log DNS server in the eNet, and then whenever people ask for the IP address for their target, they change it to their phishing site. And current IP-based detection system, it cannot see those changes in the infrastructures. What it meant is what we see is a very lower level and attackers working in the higher level. And there's also changes in the huge change in the cyber attack surface. They make use of the CAS, like Crimea as a service, and Mars is a malware as a service, and as a dynamic attack infrastructures. Before, we used to think a guy set up a station and then they hack in a static way. But today, they all know how defender react against their attack. So this is the very new kind of intelligence, and it's provided by English-based cyber intelligence company like Naru. Naru is one of the most prestigious company for the internet, and then they provide a lot of useful cases for free so far. And then they recently create the commercial product for the cyber intelligence. They provide whole backend flow information for the internet. How they work is they make some contract between ISP, and then they look into the problem in their ISP. In return, they get the flow information and passive DNS information, banner information, beacon information, and they make use it to fight against the cyber criminals. And then we also use these services with the government organization in Korea and successfully track the backend traffic and identify some might be impossible case previously before we had this kind of intelligence. They named it as a Recon, and this platform provides flow information, bonded information, passive DNS information, and other numerous informations for defenders to track the cyber criminals. I know it's not perfect, and it doesn't always give you the perfect view of the backend, but it is another good tool for the cyber security defenders arsenal. And then the more resources we have, the better we can fight against the cyber criminals. And KISA and other government organizations make use of this platform to trace like the state-sponsored adversaries. The picture on your right-hand side, is the tracing cases of highly advanced case. They made use of the VPN and other technology to evade their path, but somehow we track back to their originations.